I am going to be reading Ella's Big Chance, a jazz-age Cinderella.
Okay.
Mr. Cinders kept a little dress shop in a quiet but elegant part of town. People came from far and near to buy clothes from him because he made such lovely things. His wife had died, leaving him with one daughter, a red-haired girl called Ella, whom he dearly loved. He taught her about silks and wools, the satins, and how to coax them into coats and dresses. So by and by, she became as good a dressmaker as she was, if not better. Mr. Cinders and Ella ran the shop together with the help of a lively lad called Buttons. This was his name because he wore a short jacket with 3 rows of shiny buttons on the front. He also wore trousers with gold stripes down either side and a round cap set at a jaunty angle. Buttons polished the glass on the front of the shop until it shone, and opened the door for the customers. In the afternoon, he bicycled about town delivering parcels and boxes. In between times, whenever he could, he would chat to Ella while he was busy sewing. He could always make her laugh, even if her mouth was full of pins. All went on happily until the terrible day when Mr. Cinders decided to marry again. His new wife seemed to pop up from nowhere like a sharp-eyed, expensively dressed Jack-in-the-Box. Still Rose. She had 2 daughters of her own, and very beautiful creatures they were too. Madame Reen was her name, and she soon changed things at the shop. She had everything redecorated and enlarged the salon. She put advertisements in all smart magazines to increase trade. This meant that Ella and her father and Buttons had to work harder than ever. Neither Madame Reen nor her daughters knew how to sew. Instead, Madame Reen managed everything, and her 2 daughters, Ruby and Pearl, were models. Ruby and Pearl strolled languidly up and down, showing off the clothes to the customers. The shop was now a huge success, and all might have been well if Ruby and Pearl had not behaved so spitefully to Ella. They called her names like Pudge and Carrots, and expected her to wait on them as they lazed about on cushioned divas. They kept Ella working such long hours at her sewing machine that she hardly had a moment to herself. If she fell asleep at the workroom table, they woke her up and scolded her. Now she no longer had a room of her own. She shared a cramped basement full of cutting and rolls of cloth with the old gray cat. Mr. Cinders was far too much under his wife's thumb to interfere. Ella could tell by his face that he knew things were going badly, but he seemed suddenly to have grown old and could only remain silent as his stepdaughters preened themselves in the beautiful gowns that Ella had made, while the only thing his own daughter had to wear was a shabby black dress. The one person who took Ella's side was loyal Buttons these days. He hated working at the shop, but he stayed in the job for her sake. He often exchanged
Don't do that,
Link.
Link.
When Madame Reen was out of earshot. Privately, he called them a couple of puffed-up, dress-made-up, stuck-up, brainless parakeets. When Whenever he could, he would slip down to Ella's basement and try to cheer her up. He would strum his guitar and coax her to sing the songs that reminded them of happier times. Sometimes they even danced together, two little figures in the moonlit room, moving softly and out among the bales of cloth. The most important customer who came to the shop was Duchess of Arc, a lady of enormous wealth. She always arrived in her luxurious car and swept into the salon, swathed in the first sparkling of her suburb diamonds. Then how Madame Reen fussed and flattered and commanded Ruby and Pearl to parade all the best gowns that Ella's clever fingers had created. Imagine the excitement when one day an invitation arrived from the Duchess announcing that a grand ball was to be held at her villa in honor of the only son, the Duke of Arc, lately returned from abroad. All the ladies and gentlemen of any importance in the neighborhood were asked to attend. At once, Ruby and Pearl began to vie with each other in a very jealous manner about what they intended to wear. The shop was thrown into a fever of activity. There was such posturing in front of mirrors and draping of silks and satins, such confusion of feathers and jewelry, that the place began to look like an Aladdin's cave. Ella was set to work night and day to make her stepsister's dresses. A very good job she made for it. "Will I be going to the ball too?" she asked when every last stitch was finished to perfection. Ruby and Pearl merely sniggered rudely at this. You go to the ball?" they said. "No chance, Carrots. You're far too shabby. Besides, you couldn't possibly get into any of the dresses." "I think you're mean," cried Ella. The invitation was for all of us." "Good heavens, child, surely you can understand that it would never do for us to be seen with someone like you," was all they replied. Ella was too proud to cry. On the evening of the ball, she helped them to arrange their hair and put on their dresses, pretending that she didn't care. When at last the hired limousine arrived, Ruby in shades of red, Pearl in pastel pink, and Madame Reen, all glittered in black, swept out without even saying goodbye. Only Mr. Cinders lingered for a moment to kiss his daughter good night with a sad look that said, "You see how it is, there's nothing I can do." Then they were gone. Ella went slowly downstairs to her dreary basement room and sat down on the floor among the snippets of cloth. She gathered the old gray cat into her lap. "I'll bet it's a horrible, stuck-up affair anyway," she whispered. "But oh, Puss, I would have loved to have seen it all." And a few hot tears fell onto his fur. Just then Ella heard a soft tap on the door, and there was Buttons. So they wouldn't let you go, Ella," he said. "Downright spiteful, I call it. You're twice as pretty as they are. But never mind. I'm cooking bacon and eggs in the kitchen. Come on, we'll have a party of our own." In the kitchen, Button put an apron on, lit the stove, while Ella fetched the milk from the doorstep. Just as she stepped out, a strange lady stepped in carrying a fancy umbrella. "I'm your fairy godmother," she told, briskly peeling off her gloves. "It's my job to see that you go to the ball. So let's not waste time. First, I must think how to get you there. Come outside, both of you, and bring me the cat. Outside in the street, the fairy godmother looked about her carefully. There was nothing inside that looked very promising. As transport, only Button's old delivery bicycle, which was propped up against the railings. But when the fairy godmother tapped it lightly with her folded umbrella, it instantly turned into a large, gray, gleaming limousine. Then, just another tap, this time on the old cat's head, transformed him at once into a smart chauffeur dressed in an immaculate dove-gray uniform, who stood by the open door. Ella clasped Button's hand tightly in amazement. "But I can't go to the ball," she cried. "Not like this. I look terrible." The fairy godmother sketched a shape in the air with her umbrella, and suddenly Ella was dressed in a dress as light as silver, cobweb glittering all over with crystal beads, which fitted her perfectly. She wore a tiny silk hat to hide her hair in case she was recognized, silver stockings, and tap, tap, a pair of little glass slippers on her feet.
How many rest?
Oh, Ella was all Buttons could say. He had never seen her look so elegant. "You are to be by home the last stroke of midnight," the fairy godmother told Ella. "The magic only lasts until then. After that, it's back to normal." "I won't forget," cried Ella. "I won't forget."